Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. Okay, so I'm just going to run through what we'll cover off today on our session. So just run through briefly what Scottish Edge is. We'll run through that for you. And then we'll run through our sort of competition categories. We've got various different aspects of the competition and try and make that a bit clearer for you. We'll touch on the key dates that are important. Then I'll cover off the application process, how you go through sort of your written part of your application. And then, as I say, I'll hand over to my colleague Ken, who will take you through the video part of it and how best to structure that and put that together. I'll then cover off the assessment process. So what happens next, which is quite an important learning part of the workshop today. So this is when you actually apply, what we do with it in terms of sending it to our assessment panels and what they're looking for and how they assess it. So there's some really good learnings in that part of it. We'll cover off some top tips that we've learned throughout seeing numerous applications and videos coming into us. And as I say, we'll hopefully have some time at the end for some questions. So first thing is, what is Scottish Edge? Just to give you a bit of a brief overview of what the organisation is, how it's funded, who our key partners are, etc., etc. So first thing is Scottish Edge. It's a competition and we're aimed at identifying and supporting Scotland's up and coming, innovative, high growth potential entrepreneurial talent. So that's our purpose. That's what the competition is aimed to do. There's a couple of key things in there that we want to touch on that, again, are crucial parts as you are going through this journey and going through your application to sort of bear in mind. So the first thing to really focus on is it's a competition. So that's built into our sort of key statement there. That is fundamentally what we deliver. We are not a grant provider. We're not a support network. We are not a loan provider. So whilst we do all of those things, ultimately what we do is do those things through a competition format. So when you're doing your application and your video and you're submitting something into Scottish Edge Round 19, please make sure two things: that what you are submitting is a representation of your business and you. So make sure that you are happy with what you submit and you give yourself the time to put forward the best case that you can. And secondly, when you do submit your application, it will be assessed and against other applications coming into the competition. So it will be assessed along similar standards versus other applications coming in. So you want to make sure you're putting it across the best case that you can so that you stand out as sort of ones that have got that high growth potential that's also in there. So the competition part's really, really important. The other part we've got here is the sort of up and coming innovation. That's kind of what we're looking for. So up and coming is the purpose of the competition. It's about early stage businesses. It's about finding businesses that are just starting out on their journey. And through Scottish Edge, we will give them that support through funding and through the wider support of our relationship management team, our access to sort of strong connections across the business network, just other support partners that we've got. So there is more than just the sort of funding part of it, but it's about finding those early stage businesses at the start of their journey, and those ones that go on to the next part that's important have got high growth potential. So that's really important when you're going through it and when we're doing the assessment part of it. It's being able to demonstrate to a judging panel that your business offering demonstrates future strong potential. As I say, all the businesses that apply are very early stage, the majority of them, and it's about being able to demonstrate and give confidence to a judging panel that you're onto something here that has got potential, and you've actually taken some steps to sort of validate that part of it. So that's quite important, and we will touch on that as we go through the assessment criteria and the sort of application process, and Ken will no doubt touch on it on the video part as well. So that is what Scottish Edge ultimately is. A bit of background about the competition. It's been going now for over 8 years. It started off as a sort of public funded competition through sort of Scottish Government funding. It was delivered through Scottish Enterprise, but it has grown sort of quite significantly since then. And we've now got some key partners on board who will sort of help fund and sort of help us deliver the competition. So we've got our main partners are Royal Bank of Scotland, the Hunter Foundation, Scottish Government through the Can Do initiative, and Scottish Enterprise. So they're all key organisations within the sort of business network in Scotland, and they sort of have partnered with us. We also work closely with probably all or the majority of business organisations across Scotland, but some of them are aligned to our advisory board. So we've got like Highlands and Islands Enterprise, Business Gateway, Social Investment Scotland, Entrepreneurial Scotland, and several other ones, all aligned to what we're doing. So they're all involved and support us and help drive the sort of competition format. So they all sit on part of our advisory board. So we do partner. We are a unique organisation in that we are not trying to do something similar to other organisations. We have got something quite different, and it means that it can pull together the whole business community in Scotland, and we can get everyone involved in supporting it. So as we said at the outset, this is a workshop for Scottish Edge Round 19. And what that means is we've delivered 18 rounds of it previously. And this just gives you a snapshot of what has happened in the previous 18 rounds. So across those 8 years or so, we have seen almost 4,500 business applications, business pitches, and got so many across each year that we probably the most inundated business with business applications. So we've seen a few, we know what works, we know what doesn't work. So hopefully this sort of the knowledge from the team will help as we go through this application to get you in best place to put across your story. We've supported almost 500 winners throughout the competition. So again, once we're going through it, we'll outline the number of winners we have each round. So it's not just one winner. We'll touch on some of the numbers and the stats around what your chances of success. We've given out just over £19 million. And the bit that's what we are measured on as an organisation at Scottish Edge, and ultimately the bit that the businesses can sort of deliver on behalf of sort of Scottish Edge is by growing and demonstrating that you've got steps towards that high growth potential, by creating jobs, by growing your turnover, by bringing on more investment beyond the Edge funding to help you do even more with the business. So these are the things that we're ultimately measured on from our key partners like Scottish Government that we need to report back to them on. And this is the sort of stuff that we're looking for back from the businesses that win. So again, when you're looking to do your application, just think about that future journey as well, because that's what the Edge application will get you to do, is think about not just what you can do tomorrow or next week or next month. It's about, right, what can you actually achieve going forward your business? What's the plans and aspirations and ambitions? And have you got ambitions to grow a team? Have you got ambitions to sort of grow turnover and sort of take that to quite a high level? So it's those types of things that you want to be thinking along those lines when you're putting your application together. So eligibility, quite an important part of it. So we want to make sure when you come into the competition, when you spend time doing an application, and you do a video and all these things, that you don't actually come back to the end of it and go, oh, really sorry, you're not actually eligible, when you've spent quite a bit of time doing all those things. So make sure you sort of through this quite rigorously to make sure you tick all the boxes, because as the competition goes on, we're quite do quite a lot of checking. We're quite robust on the checking part of it to make sure the businesses are meeting the eligibility that's required. So to enter the competition, as I say, we'll touch on the various categories, but to go for our Scottish Edge category, which is our main awards, the higher level awards up to £100,000, to enter that, you must be a registered business, and you must be registered and be trading for less than 5 years. So you must have a registration at Companies House. The Scottish Edge category is also open to social enterprises, community interest companies, charities. So as long as you're a registered organisation, then you've got access to apply for Scottish Edge. Then for our Young Edge and Wildcard categories, again, we'll touch in more detail around how they work. Again, you can be a registered company, social enterprise, community interest company, etc., all the ones similar to Scottish Edge, but the Young Edge and Wildcard is also open in addition to sole traders and partnerships. So if you're just starting out, you're not registered yet as a company, you're trading as a sole trader, then it's fine to enter those categories only. So that's the registration part of it. Then in terms of the other eligible parts of it, it is designed, as we said at the outset, for the early stage of incoming entrepreneurial talent. So for that, the organisations who apply must be either pre-trading or they must have been trading for less than 5 years. So as long as you are either a pre-trading stage of less than 5 years of sales activity going on in your business, then you're okay to apply. The business must be headquartered in Scotland. So going back to the registration part of it, you don't have to be registered as an organisation in Scotland, but as long as the business is headquartered here, the key people are based here in terms of the business operations, and the key people delivering the business are resident in Scotland. So it's about making sure you tick those boxes. In terms of other parts that are crucial, you must have less than £1 million of turnover, and you must have brought in less than 500,000 of investment. So the majority of businesses that apply to Scottish Edge haven't made any sales, they haven't brought any investment, but you get the odd couple who have gone a bit further on their journey that might still meet them. So as long as you've got less than £1 million and not brought in more than £500,000 of investment, then you're okay to apply. For those ones who have maybe brought in investment or anything like that, so we want to make sure that 50% of the business ownership still sits with the people delivering that business day in, day out. So you've not had a big chunk of money going into the business. It's majority owned by someone who's just not actively involved in the business. So we want to make sure this fund is designed to help businesses who have taken the steps, and the co-founders who have taken the step, or the founders that have just taken that sort of brave step to say, right, we're going to start up in business. We want to sort of grow this business in Scotland and take it forward. And that's what this awards are designed for. So businesses that are placed to sort of start up and grow the business, we will hopefully do what we can to help you. And in terms of the ambitions of the business, you must have ambitions to generate more than £200,000 of turnover over the next 3 years. And that's a sort of combined period. So it doesn't mean by year 3 you're doing £200,000 a year. It means over years 1, 2 and 3, which we ask for projections on, as long as that equates to more than £200,000 combined. There is a caveat to that for some of our maybe science-based or technology businesses where the time frame to market can be longer. So as long as you can outline the journey to show how that growth is going to sort of take off, then that's okay. And then several of the businesses will be eligible for different category awards. So what we're saying is, if you're eligible for Scottish Edge, Young Edge and Wildcard Edge, that's fine. What you would be done is you just do one application, which we'll touch on shortly. So you don't have to do anything different. And then going through the process, our independent assessment panels will direct you to the best category that you're suited for in terms of how they've assessed your business. So this is a bit more detail around the different categories that we've got within the competition. So as I said, we've got Scottish Edge, Young Edge, Wildcard Edge, and we've also got a separate social enterprise edge category that falls within the remit of sort of overall Scottish Edge prize pot. So for Scottish Edge, as I said earlier, in the eligibility, you must be a sort of registered limited company or social enterprise or charity. What to do for that is you apply on the online application form, and that's the same process for all the categories. You apply online, you do your 3-minute video, and then your application progresses to a first stage assessment. And that's the same for all the categories. So those initial 2 steps don't really change. So no matter what category you're going for, you do an online application form. It's the same questions, it's the same process, and that's designed just to make it as easy as possible for people, no matter what category you want to go for, that you sort of do the same process, so it's not complicating the sort of journey for you. And then every application then goes into our first stage assessment process, where your application is looked at by 4 or 5 sort of business experts who will review against your assessment criteria, again, which we'll cover later on. So again, touching on Scottish Edge part of it. So you've done your application form, you've had your assessment, and then if you're one of the ones that stand out is showing that high growth potential that we touched on at the outset, then you'll be invited to a semi-final. And that will then become like the Dragon's Den type situation, where you come and do a pitch live, or you do it virtually via Zoom, just depending on circumstances and how we will deliver that part of the competition. And then after that 3-minute pitch, you will have 7 minutes of questions from a judging panel that we bring in. That section, that part of the competition is not public. It's done in a closed environment. It's purely yourself and the judges and a couple from the Scottish Edge team who will be there in person or on the screen with you when you're delivering that part of it. And then if you progress from the semi-final, you get invited to a Scottish Edge final. And then again, you do the same process. It's a 3-minute pitch, 7 minutes of questions. But this time the difference is we will do that in person. Normally our Scottish Edge final is our sort of showcase event. We have that in a sort of public forum. So we have an audience along, the businesses stand on stage, and you can sort of, then you get the chance to sort of be questioned by the judges. We have recordings of that somewhere, of previous finals. Of our last final we did that, so we'll have a recording of it, so we'll have that somewhere available for you. If anyone wants to view that further down the competition, we can let you see how that works, and you can get a chance to sort of watch the previous final. And then from that, if you are one of our winners, you will then be picked and told you're a Scottish Edge winner. And we do those announcements at an awards dinner. And all the awards in the Scottish Edge category are 70% loan, 30% grant. I think we've got a question. See if anyone's got a question about it.
Yeah, sorry, I had a question about the loan and grant part. I think you're just getting there. So
okay.
Is that the £100,000 not fully grant?
No, not in the Scottish Edge category. No, all awards are 70% loan, 30% grant in that part of it.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's part of it. So also in the Scottish Edge, we have a separate, we sort of measure our social enterprises separately. So if you go through the first stage assessments and you're a social enterprise and you're successful, you'll be invited to a social enterprise Edge final. And again, it's the same format as a semi-final. You will do a pitch, not publicly, and then you can win our Social Enterprise Edge Award. And again, the awards in that category for social enterprises are 70% loan and 30% grant. And then separately from that, we've got also our Young Age and Wildcard. So these are categories we've introduced to the competition to support earlier stage businesses with sort of smaller prize pots. So in Young Age and Wildcard, you can win awards of mainly £10,000, and there'll be sort of one-off top prizes of £15,000. And those awards are purely grant only. So to apply for Young Age, you must be aged 18 to 30. So, and that's the key business team. So everyone within the key business team must be 18 to 30. So those key founders. If you're 30, that's okay. We've had quite a few questions coming in, I've just turned 30. That's okay, as long as you're not 31 or more, then you can apply for Young Age. And again, it's the same as we touched on, it's the same application form, 3-minute video, and then you're assessed. And then the businesses will be invited to the Young Age final, where you will do your 3-minute pitch, 7 minutes of questions with our judging panel. Again, it's not public, and then we'll have our Young Age winners from that. And this round, we're planning to have 14 winners. And as I said, their awards are purely grant awards only. And the process for Wildcard is very similar to Young Age. It's the same process. Wildcard is designed to help very early stage innovation-based businesses where there's something exciting about the business. So it's about those wow factor. That's the part we use for Wildcard. It's about do you demonstrate the wow factor? So, and that can be whether it's in your product or it could be the skill set of the team or the way you've sort of designed your business model. It could be something that's just quite innovative or different or unique that will make you stand out in the market and get the judging panel excited. So Wildcard, again, application form and video, you get your first stage assessment, and then you get invited to, again, a similar final, and it's 8 winners we're looking at in this round for Wildcard. Again, it'll be awards of mainly £10,000 and one top prize of £15,000. So overall, this round, we are looking at a prize pot of about £1.5 million that we will give out, which will be shared about 40 odd businesses. And here's roughly some stats around your chances of success. So at this stage, we don't have any idea how many applications will come into Scottish Edge round 19. In previous rounds, we have had applications ranging from 200 up to just over 300 odds. So in the last round, it was 267, I think, applications we had. So just basing this on a random number of 220. As I said, it could be 250, it could be 300, it could be 200. But if we do that, around a certain proportion of them will just be focused on the young age and wildcard categories. But we think around 160, if you go in 220, will be looking to win Scottish Edge. And going through, including our sort of social enterprise award and the various other category awards we have within Scottish Edge, we will have around 18 winners, which gives you about an 11% chance of success. So if you're coming into the competition, again, just focusing on that word competition, you've got about an 11% chance of winning the Scottish Edge award. Young Edge, due to some additional support from Scottish Enterprise over the last round and into this round, we have, going from our previous award total of 7 award winners, we've doubled the amount to, and that's just recognising some additional support for young people starting out in business. So we're going to have 14 winners, and typically we have around 70 businesses that are eligible. And as you say, like, because we get crossover, some are eligible for Scottish Edge only, some are eligible for Scottish Edge and Young Edge. That's why we get some crossover in the numbers. So we've got, say, 70 should be aged 18 to 30 within the overall competition. And if we have 14 winners, it's about a 20% chance of success in that. Wildcard is often our toughest category to win. We reckon about half of our applications, roughly, are normally pre-trading. So that means they're all eligible. So if you take it around about 120, 110, we're going to have 8 winners, which gives you about a 7% chance of success. And for our social enterprises, we normally have 1 social enterprise edge winner, and the number of applicants is between 10, 12, 15. And again, it's about an 8% chance of success. So we've got another question I think someone's want to ask. Anne?
Yeah. Hello. Hi.
Hi.
So I wanted to know if you can apply for social and for young entrepreneurs.
Yes, of course. Yeah, if you're a social, for the key thing for social enterprise edge, you must be an asset locked social enterprise. So your registration status must be asset locked social enterprise. Okay. So if you've got that, but if you're also in the age bracket for young edge, you'll be considered for both. Okay. But that's the key part of it.
All right. Thank you.
So overall, if we take our 220 applications, going through to the next stage, which includes a semi-final, young edge final, wildcard final, etc., we'll take probably about 75% of the businesses through to that, which is about around about 30% chance of progressing. And then we'll have about 41 winners, which is about a 19% chance of success overall. So that's how Edge works. So that competition part of it is really important. When you come into Scottish Edge, it's not easy to win. But what we find, the ones who do win, the benefits for them from the funding, from the wider support are sort of really help them grow. So if you want to do Scottish Edge, then it's important you sort of allocate some time to do it. So because the ones who don't give it the sort of care and attention and sort of give it the sort of justifiable time frame to do it properly, you'll stand out in the competition because there will be other applications that will come in that will sort of stand out with much better answers and assess much better. So in terms of the winners, just a sort of a brief sense check on what in the terms to stand out for our judges. We've got two aspects of it. We've got businesses that tend to get judging panels excited by a high level of innovation. So that's the ones you go, wow, that's really exciting. I can see that being a sort of game changer solution in that sector or something that really stands out. But those businesses have also taken steps to validate their potential market. They may be working with some partner organisation, they may have some trials lined up, things like that. So it's not just coming up with a really good idea and saying, yeah, we're going to make this into a business. It's about having a great idea, but of also taking steps to take that forward. The other aspect that also stands out quite well in Scottish Edge is just a really solid business offering with proven traction. So if you're already sort of making good strides in your sector, you're sort of building up customer traction, you've maybe made some sales, you're just showing that, you know what, we're a business that's competing in quite a busy market, but we're actually holding our own, we're doing well, we're showing continued growth and will continue to grow, and with the Edge support will grow even further. So those types of businesses really stand out as well. So it's not all about wow innovation, it's about just sometimes just being a really good business with really good people and really good plans for growth. So some key dates for you. So the key date for the purpose of today's session is the 15th of February. That's when our application window closes. So that's 3 weeks today, and it'll close at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We are very, very, very strict on that time frame. The application window will have been open by that date for 5 weeks. So it was opened 2 weeks ago. So if businesses come to us and say, oh, I've not had a chance to do it, or can I have an extra 2 hours, can I have an extra day? The answer on 99.9% of those requests will be no. So that's the key date to make sure you're working towards if you're going to do this. We've got another couple of questions, I think. We've got somebody want to ask a question? No.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
If I may. Yes, we have just started a business that we are pre-trading, and we are working on the MVP for our first application. So I think the question has been answered as pre-trading businesses do qualify for an Edge award. Yeah. So they are not locked into the Wildcard, for instance. No, like our Scottish Edge winners are always a mix of pre-trading and trading businesses. So there's so as long as you're a registered company, then you're eligible for Scottish Edge, and whether you're trading or pre-trading, you've got the same chance of success. But if you're very early stage, it's about demonstrating and giving a judging panel confidence that you've got something that the market wants, and you can evidence that way in some way by whether it's customer validation or showing that you've got something that people really want and there's a real demand for it. So that's the key part of it. Thank you. And if you could comment on the loan part, that would be good. Maybe you have a few slides for coming up, but I noticed that there was a question about grant versus loan as well. Yeah. So yeah, well, we'll touch on that towards the end. No doubt there's some questions on that, and my colleague Ken can also jump in on that part of it as well. So we'll cover that off further down the process. So when you do apply and all your applications come in, we then allocate them to various assessment days, and we've got our judging panels all lined up for them. They will run between the end of February through to the middle of March. So we've got 12 judging days that we will allocate all the businesses. So a proportion of businesses will go to a certain application day or assessment day,
and then we'll go through and work our way through them. And that the whole purpose of them is to get independent judges to decide which businesses should progress to the next stage. And then by the 22nd of March, we will aim to get all the assessment results sent out to everyone. So anyone who applies, you will get an email result sent out. That email result will tell you, have you progressed in Scottish Edge to the semi-final? Have you progressed in Young Edge to the final? Have you progressed to Wildcard in the final? Have you progressed to the Social Enterprise Edge final? Or have you, on this occasion, not stood out in the competition? And we would encourage you to then come back in a future round. So you wouldn't have progressed in any of the parts of it. So that will come out. Alongside that, you will also get some feedback. So feedback from the judging panel, their discussion and their views and their expertise, knowledge of your sector or that business journey you're looking to go on. And there'll be any types of support that we think you could look at and consider, and we'll add that in. And then if you are one of the ones to progress to the next stage, here's the key dates that you need to bear in mind. These dates are set in stone, so we can't alter these. We've got our judging panels again lined up for these already. So for the semi-finals, if you do progress, because we'll take around 40 to 50 businesses to the semi-final, whilst there's 4 dates there, you would only be invited to one of them. So you don't have to block out all dates, so you would only be invited to one of them. And then again for the Young Edge final, we're doing that across 2 days. Again, you would only be invited to one. And then our key Scottish Edge final dates at the end are the 25th and 26th of May. That's when we have our showcase events where the businesses for the Scottish Edge category will stand on stage and pitch. And then all of our winners, no matter what category you're in, are announced on the 9th of June at an awards dinner. But key thing.
Do you know the locations of these finals?
Yeah, the Scottish Edge final is the only one at the moment we plan to have as a public event person, and that will be at the Royal Bank headquarters in Edinburgh.
Okay.
And I will also be there, so that's it's one of our key partners. We will hold our events there.
Thank you.
But as I say, for the purpose of this workshop, the key thing and the key fundamental step is the 15th of February is to get your application is best done by then. So how do you apply? So if you've not yet had a look at the application process, if you can make sure you do that. So how you do it is through our Scottish Edge website. So it's just www.scottishedge.com, and you'll see on the homepage there'll be, I think there's now the buttons there just for apply here and what are our competitions. So you just click on apply here, and then it'll take you into our application portal. So when you go into that, you'll have 2 options. You've got a new applicant, or you've got an already registered. But if you are someone who has applied in a previous round or have even just started an application on our portal and you've already got a sign-in and a password for it, then you would click on already registered, and that would ask you for your email, your accounts linked to us for signing in, and then your password, and then you'll get into the system. If you're a new applicant, you would just click on the new applicant sort of tab, and then you would click the orange button to start your application process. And then it will take you through and you would sort of create your password, and that will get you into the system. And then once you get in, you'll go through and there's various screens to capture some basic information about you and your business. So who's the key people, what's the business name, contact details, etc. And then you'll get to a screen that asks you to create your application. And then when you click that button, you will then be taken to this screen, which is your initial sort of funding amount. So when you apply to Scottish Edge, you apply for a specific amount. So again, if you're only focusing on Young Edge or Wildcard Edge, you would apply for an amount of 10,000 or 15,000 if you think you could be considered for the top prize award. If you're applying for an amount more than £10,000 or £15,000, sorry, you are automatically then considered for one of the Scottish Edge categories. So if you put an amount in there of more than £15,000, that sort of makes sure you are being considered for Scottish Edge, but you can also be considered for Young Edge and Wildcard, even though you've put a higher amount. So as long as you tick the box. So you've got that screen. Then down at the bottom of that, we've got various different Accolade Awards within the sort of cottage edge competition. So you've got social enterprise, we've got an STV award. So these are basically Scottish Edge awards, but they have a sort of separate aspect to them that is to showcase a specific sector or someone who's working on a specific area. So these are just the same as Scottish Edge Award, the same prize breakdown, the 70% loan, 30% grant, but there's some of these awards give additional prizes or additional aspects to it. For example, the STV award allows you to get your advert on TV. So it gives you some sort of funding towards putting an advert on TV for your business. And for example, the Circular Economy Award gets you aligned to the team at Zero Waste Scotland to help you on your journey. So there's various aspects of it that can help you along your way. I think there was a couple of hands there. Did someone have a question?
Yes, so I've got a question about the applying amount for.
Okay.
Is it up to 100,000? So do we need to put something less than 100,000?
No, so the top award is 100,000, so you can apply for 100,000.
100,000. Okay, that's the maximum. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll touch on like what you need to consider when you're thinking about your amount when we get into the assessment part of it and how that all works.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions? I think there's a couple of hands.
Just about the circular economy, the STV growth and the net zero. Will you be coming on to that later and what's involved in that?
Yeah, so basically, I can touch on that just now. So those are special category awards. So they effectively don't really become relevant in the competition until the very end part at the final. So when you're going through your application and your video, all we want you to do is tick to think we should be considered for them, and you can tick more than one. But as the initial stages of the competition progress, they're not really relevant, because what happens is when we get to our final, what we will be looking for from our final is, out of the number of finals we have, who is the top circular economy business when it comes to our 20 finalists or 25 finalists, whatever number we've got at the end of it. Which business out of that is the top circular economy one, and they will win the Circular Economy Edge Award, which is a Scottish Edge Award, has a Scottish Edge prize, but just has a special title aligned to it. And the same goes with STV Edge. When we get to our final 20 or 25 businesses, the business that has the best sort of product-based business that is best aligned to having a TV advert, then they would win the STV Growth Edge Award, which again is a Scottish Edge Award. You will win a Scottish Edge prize amount of up to £100,000, which is split grant and loan. But in addition to that, we then link you into the STV team and you'll get an additional £75,000 of airtime for an advert on STV. So that's an additional on top of any prize that you win. And the same with other ones. So those awards are technically special titles that you get for winning a Scottish Edge Award because you are focused on a particular area, and it helps when we do some PR and profiling of the businesses at the end of the competition. You will get some additional focus because you are a sort of special category award winner. Hopefully that covers it. So at the outset, you don't really need to focus too much on picking out, we want to win the STV award. You can touch on it in your application. As long as you tick the box to say we should be considered, if you make it through to the final, then you will be considered for it. But it's not a fundamental aspect you need to focus on at the outset. Hopefully that helps. So that's that initial page. We'll move on to the sort of key part of the application portal. So when you're going through and you've ticked all the boxes or the categories that you think you're eligible for, you'll be then taken to this screen, which I know is quite difficult to sort of read on the sort of screen at the moment. But this is your one-page application. This is where you get everything that you need to apply to the competition. So there's some information in there, touches on the different categories. You can go in and see some help information. But the important parts of the various sections are the middle section there that says application questions. So you'll see in there, there's some orange buttons in there that are sort of not highlighted or partly highlighted at the moment. So in there, that is the key application questions that you as an applicant will need to complete. So there's sort of 8 buttons there. One is the funding one, that's where you tick all the boxes. One's an attachments one, if you need to put any attachments in. And the other 6 are the key application sections that we will ask you some questions on for your application. So that's the different buttons. So you click on each of them. This application is not designed really for you to do in one go. You can save it. You can just save all your answers, and you can come in and out of it as many times as you like, as long as you've completed it before the deadline. So you go in and answer each of the questions. Once you've done that, you'll also put in your video link. So again, colleague Ken will take you through the video link part of it quite soon. And then once you've done all those parts, you're satisfied, you're happy with all your answers, your video link's in there, then you tick the button at the box in the purple section just to say you can confirm all the parts in there are okay. And then the button at the very bottom, sort of right-hand side on the screen, that sort of that highlights once you've ticked all the relevant boxes, and then you can submit your application, and that's it, entered into Scottish Edge round 19. So that's the key application question. Just to let you see, when you click on each of the application question buttons, this is an example of what you see. So this is the Entrepreneurial Spirit section. So you'll see, you'll go in, there is various questions within that. So there'll be a highlight question, and then there's various sub-questions. Those sub-questions are important. So when you're going through it, they are sort of key things that the application panel will be looking for information around. So when you're going through it, use them as a really good guide when you're putting your application answer together. If there's 1 or 2 of those sub-points that you don't have as not relevant, don't worry about it, as long as you're covering off the majority of those parts within your sort of application answer, because not everything in all the sections will apply to every business. The majority of things will, but if there's anything in there that's not relevant, then just you don't have to sort of rack your brain to try and think of something to come up with. Just make sure you answer it as best you can, covering all the other key areas. So you've got your questions there. Below that, you'll have a question box. Most of them have got just the sub-questions in as a holding text, but they will disappear when you start typing in it. And each of our answers will have a word count. So that just is a guide to say this is roughly around the words that we would need to give as a sort of robust answer that will help you progress. If you, whilst this one says 500 words, if you answer it in 420 words or 320 words and you think you've given a really great answer that sort of demonstrates your sort of people side of your business really well, don't feel as though you have to keep going and going and going until you get to 500 words. It's not necessary. Just use that as a guide. But if you've got a really good answer in less words than that, that's fine. Don't keep adding to it just for the sake of it. So that's the application part of it. This screen here, we'll touch on this part of it a wee bit more when we go into the assessment areas. But this is just a snapshot of what you're asked on your application question. There is a bit more detail to that once you go into it, but this gives you a sense of the sections we look at, what you're asked to do, and the types of questions that we want you to be thinking about as you go through it. So that's a good screen shot. That's a good screen to actually take a note of, because it sort of gives you that preparation aspect of it. If you're thinking about, right, here's what I want to do, and is Scottish Edge going to be right for me? Then yeah, I can answer all these questions. That's your key part of it. And as I said, we will delve into those key underlined sections when we look at the assessment part of it, because that's the part where you will pick up a lot of learnings of what we're looking for in those sections. So that's the application process. That's about Scottish Edge and how you do the application. As I say, we'll give you a lot more detail around the ins and outs of the sections, a bit more detail, and Ken will probably touch on some of the bits as well through the video. But I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ken, who's going to now take you through the video part of it. The video part is aligned to your application. They work in conjunction, so we look at your application and video together. So Ken will take you through the key steps of how you can best structure your video pitch to get the key points across. So Ken, can I hand over to you, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephen. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to cover off three things with you this morning. The first is I'm going to talk you through what would be a recommended structure to use when putting your video pitch together. I'll give you some tips on how you might make a start in terms of determining what that content's going to look like, and then just sort of a few tips around what good looks like based on our experience so far. I think probably the first thing to say that's important is that usually what happens when a first stage assessment panel are looking at your application, in most instances, they're going to look at your video pitch first, and then they're going to read your application form. So your pitch video is really your first opportunity to make a really good impression, to present a compelling case that's going to get people excited about your business and what you're doing, and get them really interested in what the supplementary information in your application form looks like. So let's start off just by having a look at the recommended structure. If you could just stick that slide up for me, please, Stephen. There we go. So this is the structure that we would recommend you use when you're putting your pitch video together. However, you don't have to use this. If you've got a method that you prefer, that's absolutely fine. You won't be penalized by not using this structure. But why I would encourage you to sort of follow this approach is it pretty much gives the assessment panel all of the key pieces of information that they're going to be looking for. So initially, you're going to start off with what we call a sort of an introduction, or sometimes referred to as a hook. And that's typically just one or two short sentences that are designed to sort of attract the listener's attention and get them excited about your business. You might then want to tell us a little bit about why did you set up the business? You know, what's your purpose? What inspired you to do whatever it is that you're doing? Sometimes a personal story can be really, a really great way of drawing somebody in. So, if your business has been inspired by something that, you've experienced yourself, then, that's a great way of starting off. So in that as well, you're going to tell us a little bit about, what the problem is you're actually solving and who has that problem. Okay, so, what is it that your business, or whether it's a product or a service, does that actually is solving a problem for your target customer? You're then going to move on to tell us a little bit about, well, how do you solve that problem? So in terms of a video, this is a really great opportunity within the video to show us what you actually do. So if you've got a physical product, then it'd be great to see it. If you're just at sort of prototype stage, then a drawing or an illustration would be fine. If you don't happen, if you're not at the stage where you've actually physically manufactured the product. Or if you're a service business, then maybe think about a way in which you can help the assessors visualize what that service looks like. The next bit's really around sort of the customer opportunity and the revenue model, which is two things really. The first thing is, how do you know that the market wants whatever it is that you're doing? So ideally, we'd be looking to see some customer validation there. That could be, so examples of that could be market research that you've done. How many customers have you spoken to from your target audience? What were the key points of feedback that they give you? But also, how's the business actually going to make money? So what's the business model? Following on from that, you're going to talk a little bit about, well, who are your competitors? Don't fall into the trap of saying you don't have any, because you will. So you want to be telling us a little bit about who are your key competitors and what is it about your product or service that differentiates you from those other competitors. If you've got any intellectual property, that would be the sort of time to introduce that into your pitch and tell us sort of any IP that you've got and what's protectable about your product. Following on from competition, tell us a little bit about who the key people are on the team. So who are the founding team and what is it about their knowledge or skills or experience that's particularly relevant to what you're doing. Now, appreciating a lot of people who apply to Edge, early stage, so they might not have an established team in place as yet, but tell us who's there now. And if you've got any key gaps in the team, tell us what they are and what your plans are to recruit to fill those. Because often we find that, a lot of people who are applying to Edge are looking to use any funding that they receive to actually grow the team. So that's a good point to introduce that. The next stage is, we call it traction. Traction is just really another term for, where you are so far. So what have your key achievements been in the business? The greatest form of customer validation is sales. So if you've made some sales, tell us what they are. If you're in discussions with potential customers, tell us a little bit about that. But try and be a little bit specific about what stage you're actually at. We read a lot of things or hear a lot of things in pitches that sort of say, well, we're in discussions with. It's helpful to know a little bit more about, well, what is exactly in discussions mean? Does that mean you've exchanged an email, or does it mean you're actually quite close to securing a commercial contract? Or it could be that you've got some live market trials in progress. If you have, then it's a good point to say, well, what needs to happen in those trials in order to progress to a commercial agreement with those customers. So that's your opportunity to tell us a little bit about your successes to date. The next section touches on impact. So, how is your business sort of either delivering impact or will deliver impact that's sort of, could be towards sort of social good or towards helping towards a net zero economy, etc. And then you're going to round off with your ask. So that is, how much are you asking Edge for in the way of funding, and what are the key activities that you're going to fund with that award, and how is that going to help move your business forward? So they're the key elements of the pitch. Just going to touch on some sort of tips on how do you actually start producing this. What I would suggest you do is just get some sheets of paper and write those key headings down, and then under each heading, bullet point what are the key pieces of information that you really want to get across when you're delivering this, the things that you think are going to be most impactful to the judges. Now remember, you've only got 3 minutes, which can go really, really quickly. So try and just keep that to bullet points. And then when you're satisfied that you've got together all of the key pieces of information you're looking to convey, then sort of start crafting the wording around that. Generally speaking, you can speak around about between 150 and 160 words a minute at a comfortable speed. So if your overall pitch, once you've written it, is in the order of, say, 450 words, then you're going to be about on time. And then really, once you've got that all together, just about practicing it so that you can deliver it in the allowed time. Now, an important point to bear in mind when you're submitting a pitch video is that if it goes beyond 3 minutes, the judging panel will only view the first 3 minutes of your pitch. So we do sometimes get pitches that extend into sort of 7 minutes. If you're 3 minutes and 5 seconds, it's not going to be an issue, but try and stick to that discipline of keeping within the 3 minute time frame. A couple of other sort of tips for you. We're not really looking for sort of promotional videos in terms of what you might submit to potential customers. We're really looking to get an understanding of the entrepreneur or entrepreneurs that are behind the business. So when we view pitch videos and all we see is sort of, you know, a nicely put together video that doesn't actually show any of the people behind the business, you know, you're not giving yourself the best opportunity there. So make sure that, you know, whoever's delivering the pitch or the founding team are featured in the video. We can actually see you and hear you. I would suggest that if you want to use slides or video footage within the context of your video, only to do that if it's really sort of adding value to what you're trying to convey. So sometimes it's useful to have, as I've said before, to have a picture of your product or a visual that can help bring it to life. But generally speaking, panels want to get excited about you. So let them see who you are. Try not to speak too quickly. So keep it a comfortable pace, because that makes it easier for assessors to sort of follow what you're saying. And also try and avoid using any sort of technical language or jargon or abbreviations, which may be very familiar to you in your sector, but might not be familiar to all of the assessment panels. So try and speak in sort of everyday language that's going to make it easy for people to understand what it is that you're saying. If you are going to use slides to sort of accompany sections of your video, make sure that they're not moving on at such a pace that it becomes distracting and you can't follow them. So again, you know, make it really easy for the panel to understand what you do. And remember, it's your job to convey what it is you do in a way that's easily understood. It's not the panel's job to understand what you do. So you need to try and make that as obvious and clear as possible. I'd also suggest that, you know, try not to come across as if you're reading a script. I think it's far more powerful and impactful if you can be seen to sort of just be, you know, show the real you. Okay, and so that way what you'll find is you know, your real passion and enthusiasm for your business is going to come across far better than if you're reading from a script. So there's some tips on how to put your pitch together and on the delivery. Stephen, can you move us on to the next slide, please? Okay, so these are just some points in terms of the actual process of actually getting your pitch video into your application. On our website, you can see some examples of some pitches if you want to have a look at those before you start crafting your own. We're not looking for a Hollywood production here. So there's no need to go to the expense of you know, getting a video production company to make your video pitch for you. Something that's filmed on your phone or on a tablet is perfectly acceptable. We just need to be able to see you, and we need to be able to hear you clearly. So as long as it's visible and audible, that's good enough. Our preferred format is YouTube. So when you're uploading your YouTube link, you'll need to cut and paste the URL for that into your application form. It'll be obvious when you get to the application form as to where you do that. It's on the first page of the application where you're submitting your core business details. And if you're looking for a bit more detail in terms of the process for uploading your video, you'll find that in our competition brochure as well. So just to finish off, remember, you've only got 3 minutes. It's your first opportunity to really showcase what you're doing to the assessment panel. Keep it easy to understand. Avoid use of technical language or jargon that wouldn't be familiar outside of your own sector. and let the panel see your enthusiasm for the business. So there would be the key points around the pitch. If I hand back to Stephen.
Brilliant, Ken. Thank you for that. I think we had a couple of questions here, to a rate of hands raised. So just before we move on to the next section, is there any questions on that video part for Ken? If there's any questions on that, if anyone does have, we'll sort of pick them up as we come to the end, or you can check it. You can do it through the chat function. My colleague Jack will pick them up. He's monitoring the chat part of it. So Ken, thank you for covering that video part. Some really good stuff in there as to sort of help guide the sort of putting that together and how you sort of best get your story across. So we'll move on now to the assessment part of it. So this is where you'll take quite a bit of, hopefully, some learnings around the actual ins and outs of what you need to tell us and how we sort of measure that and assess against that. Hopefully there's be some good parts in the next section that will really sort of delve into the key categories and what we're actually looking for from an application. So if you can sort of think about at this stage now that we're moving into the future, we've done our application forms, we've done our video, and then this is what happens to it as we move into the sort of actual competition aspect of it. So we, as I said, we mentioned a couple of times, we pull together some independent assessment judges to sort of do the judging for us in the main. So we use all of our Scottish Edge partner organisations. We sort of get people from across the sort of full business network across Scotland, and they come in and make up judging panels. A typical judging panel normally has about, say, 4 or 5 people on it when we bring them together. And as I said, there's some organisations there. On the odd occasion, we'll get some of the wider Scottish Edge team involved in doing some assessments, but in the main, the majority of the applications are all looked at independently from some of our sort of people we bring in. And we typically use around 90 to 100 different people to the full delivery of Scottish Edge competition. And at the different stages of the competition, so if you go from the first stage, you go in the Scottish Edge part to the semi-final to the final, it is different judges each stage of it who look at your application. So for the first stage, all of our assessments are done mainly by sector. So I'd mentioned earlier, when the applications all come in, we allocate them to assessment days from the end of February to the middle of March that we will be undertaking them. Those are all done mainly by sector. So we'll have a science sector day where a lot of the science applications will go to. We'll have some food and drink, we'll have some technology, we'll have a sort of social enterprise, social purpose day. We'll have a creative day. We've got a sort of energy net zero type day. So we've got various different types of business sectors or categories. And for those days, we've got people with some knowledge of those sectors who will sit on our judging panel. And that means that your business will hopefully be looked at by someone who's got some knowledge of the sector. Whilst we say we've got someone in from technology, obviously business technology is quite wide ranging. So we might have someone in that might not have sort of direct knowledge of your business or your sector, but they'll have some knowledge of the technology sector. So it is difficult to cover 200 odd businesses that in the main will all be different. So, but we do have as much of a sort of wide variety of sort of skills and expertise on that judging panel. So when the judges come together, they will look at, typically a judging panel will look at anything between 10 to 12 or 15 applications. That's what we will allocate to our judging day. And they will then say, right, we're going to look through these. We send them in advance so they can do their own individual preparation work before they come together as a judging panel. And then on a particular day, the 4 or 5 judges will come together and we'll work our way through those 12, 15 applications one at a time and taking them through the assessment process. We'll touch on the 6 categories that we will each business is measured on and give you some insight into that and what we're looking for, and that will help you sort of shape when you're putting your application together and your answers. That'll help you know what you're looking for and what the judges will be going to be judging you on. And then once we've had that assessment and the discussion, what we do is we ask the judges to give a score out of 5 for that particular section. So each business is measured out of 5 for 6 different sections. So that means you can get a sort of points total of 30. And those points, that score, ultimately helps determine whether you will progress in the competition. In the main, the higher scoring businesses looking to progress because they're the ones that tick more boxes in terms of the overall sort of categories and the purpose, what Edge is about, and sort of lower score you get is unlikely to progress. The other thing to bear in mind as well when you're looking at a sort of judging process or bringing in people to sort of do the assessments from the sort of business network across Scotland, they're human beings. So they will have their own thoughts and views, and in the main, their view will be based on that of what a customer would look at it. So they will have some business knowledge. They may have set up a business. They may have went through that whole journey you're looking to embark on, but they will, in the main, look at it as though, right, would a customer benefit from this? If I was a typical customer, would I buy it? If I was if my kids or my parents or my friends were a typical customer base for this, would they use it? Or that business that I already support, would they want to use this type of product? So they'll look at it from those types of views. So it's making sure that you are making sure, I think Ken touched on it quite a bit earlier, that they understand what your business offering is and make it clear. That's really important. So this is the 6 areas that we measure each application on, and those 6 areas remain consistent throughout the whole competition process. They don't change. And so no matter what stage of the competition you're at, it's always these same 6 things. Whilst the judging panels will change at each stage, the actual criteria and what you're measured against just remains the same all the time. So we've got value proposition is the first one. So when we're going through a typical application, we will always start with the value proposition section. And what that covers is this sort of fundamental aspects of, do we know what this business is, and have they demonstrated the journey they're looking to go on to get this out to market. So the first thing, which is probably one of the most crucial things, and again we've touched on it, is after reading your application and watching your video, will a judging panel understand what your product or service offering is? Has it been clearly articulated? Will the judging panel go, yeah, I get it, I know what it is, it's really easy to understand, or it's quite a complex business offering, but you know what, they've explained it really well. They've really made it clear that whether I'm an expert in this sector or if it's someone that's not knowledgeable about this sector, they would understand what it is. So that's what you want to do. That's a really crucial part, because one of the worst things you can do in an Edge application is for the first thing for the judges to say is, I don't understand what it is, I don't get it. I've read the application 2-3 times now, I've watched the video, I still don't get it. So that's not going to get you off to a good start with the judges when they actually don't understand what it is. And then they'll go, well, how's a customer going to understand what it is? Then the next thing is around, is there a good awareness of the competition in the market and things like that? And that's not to, we don't want you to be sort of put off by highlighting other competitors in the market, because every business, whether it's direct or indirect, will have competition, and that's common knowledge. Everyone out there, whether it's a food and drink product or a technology product, there's other businesses out there doing something similar, or you're trying to displace another type of business by offering something better. So you have got competition, and what we want to know is, have you got awareness of that? Because that demonstrates a real understanding of the market that you're trying to enter, and that you have got knowledge of it, and you've been thinking about how you can sort of navigate your way in that sort of sector or that market channel that you're trying to get into. So don't be frightened to say, we have got competition, we know of this business or that business who offer something similar lines to us, but where we really stand out is this. And that's the next key fundamental part of the value proposition. What is your point of difference? So we want to know, right, how are you going to attract or get customers excited about your product? Because if you're just bringing out something that's very similar to a product that's sometimes well established in the market, or how are you going to get customers to move from using that product or to use yours? So what's that key part that's going to get the customer base that you're targeting to go, do you know what, yes, there is something different in this or unique, and that uniqueness needs to also demonstrate something that's better. So when you're putting your questions together, there's a specific question on the application about what's your point of difference. Really think about it and get across what is the thing that makes you stand out from other similar type products. Another bit about value proposition is have you got an understanding of the risks? And again, this is not to say we don't want to hear answers, we don't have any risks, because that's not what this Edge application process or journey is about. It's about, we want to know that you understand the barriers and the risks that you're going to face as you look to grow, and you've got plans in place to say, right, if this happens, here's how we will deal with it as a business. So we want you to know that you are thinking a bit more longer term, and you've got a way of sort of putting down, yeah, here's our plan for if this happens or that happens. So your risk could be about, right, we've got a funding sort of gap. Edge will help with that, but beyond Edge, we need more money, but here's what we're doing about it. Or it's about competition, or it's about IP, or it's whatever that key risk is. It's about making sure the judges, what we don't want in there is a list of 20 different just standard things, a big sort of bullet point list or whatever. We want you to pick out the key 3, 4, 5 things that are in your thinking, and the things that you need to be mindful of going forward, and a bit of a mitigation around it. Here's how we as a business would deal with this if it happened. So that's the key part within that. So that's section number 1, so that's value proposition, and then you'll get a score on that. So we'll look at all those parts and give you a score out of 1 to 5. And a 1 score is sort of basically very little information. You've not given us confidence that you have explained your product or outlined the risks or any of those parts. And a 5 is when you've impressed really strongly. So you want to get off to a good start. You want to sort of get the judging panel going, do you know what, this is a good business. I like the look of this. This is outlining something it's quite good for the market. And then the next part we go on to after that, the discussion moves on to entrepreneurial spirit. And that's just our fancy way of saying people. So who are the people within this business? The majority of businesses that apply to Scottish Edge are just 1 or 2 people, because it is designed, the competition is designed for early stage businesses that are just starting out and getting sort of foothold in and sort of taking that journey and those steps forward. So most of them are 1 or 2 people. We do have some that have started to build a team and starting to get people in, but so don't be frightened if you think, oh, it's just me in the business. That's normal for a Scottish Edge application, so that's fine. So, but if it is just you, what we want to know about it, what skills and experience have you got to make sure that you are the right person to take this business forward and make it a success? How can you demonstrate to the judges that they should have confidence in you and they should be backing you as an entrepreneur that is going to turn this into a high growth business? So it's given, it might be around your background. You might have had a business before, you might have worked in an organisation that is aligned to what you're doing, or you just might have some expertise in this. So whatever that is, we want to know about it, and we want to sort of get a sense of why you're the right person. The other thing about the people part of it and the team part of it is, it's whilst it might just be you or 2 of you in the team, it's not just you. And the businesses who will stand out in Scottish Edge will be the ones who recognise it's not just you. They'll be the ones that have tapped into the support network that's out there. Who have you got in terms of mentors or business support organisations, or just people with experience in business that you can call on and engage with, or just get advice from to say, right, we have got these 2 or 3 people that are real sounding boards for us that can give us that knowledge and expertise to to take this business forward. A key part in this section that often comes up is the commercialization of the business. It's about who in that team or that wider network can you call on to help you plan that strategy for taking that product to market and making it a commercial offering and taking those steps to make commercial sales. So who's got that previous experience? Because that's really, really important, and that's something that comes up a lot with our judging panel discussions. It's about, yeah, this is a great product. The team seem quite technical. They've done a great job to develop this technology or this offering or this software, whatever it is. The next hurdle they need to go over now is to take it to market. Who is the person in the team or the wider network to let them do that? And you need to think about that. And that person might not be in place just now, but it's about being able to build confidence again in a panel to say they're actually thinking about this. They know that they're maybe not the right people just now to do this, and they know they need to bring in a person with sales experience or taking a technology to market. So make sure if you're thinking about that section, it's about that, how the future of your team will look as well. What gaps are in the team, what skills are needed to fill, and what will be the key roles that you're looking to fill. So that's a really important section, because often if you class this as an investment part of it, or whilst it's not an equity-based part of it, there is still funding and support getting into you from a edge organisation. A lot of decisions are based on the people. Are they backable? Are they the right people to drive this forward? Because a lot of other things can be learned and sort of fixed if the people are right. So that's a really, really crucial section. The next bit is all about impact. It's becoming a more and more relevant or prevalent part of any funding application nowadays. Is about what are you as an organisation doing beyond just the normal business growth journey, which is still really important, but over and above that, what purpose have you got as a business? So we have specific questions in there around what are you doing as a business around helping people or the planet, what's your circular economy strategy, all these things. So there's a section in there that needs a bit of thinking from a lot of businesses, because that can often be a section that can hinder an applicant or really drive a business forward because they've delivered it well. There is an understanding that as an edge applying business, you will be mainly at the start of your business journey, and your core focus will be to get that business off the ground, set the foundations in place, and sort of build a plan for making this a business that's got growth potential. The impact part that we measure is about intentions. It's about are you starting to think about these things? It's not about what you've done or what you're currently doing. It's about, right, what's the intentions of the business? When do they come into force? What is the plan in terms of whether it's environmental or social good or whatever that is? It's about just making sure that you can, again, it's about building confidence in a panel to say this is a business that's thinking along the right lines in terms of what messaging they need to get across for their business, because there's lots of studies and reports out there around impact to say that going forward, businesses that are purpose-led and purpose-driven will be more successful. Customers will want to work with you more. Our suppliers will want to work with you more if you are a purpose-led business. Attracting staff can be more beneficial in the future, because if you're an impact-led business, people will want to work with you more. So there's lots of benefits around it. So it's about making sure that you're building those core values at the start of your journey. So again, we're looking for that part of it. Then the next part is about customer focus. So when we move on from that, we'll start to talk about your customer engagement. And again, this is another section that a lot of businesses just don't get right in an application. And we understand it's difficult when you're just starting out in your business journey and you're thinking about your business plan and you're looking to take it forward around that customer validation part. And I think Ken touched on it as well. What we're looking for in this section is businesses that have taken those fundamental steps, because often a judging panel will say, you know what, that's a great idea, but it's not a business until you can evidence that customers will be interested in this. So if you can demonstrate that you have done some steps, taken some steps to say, you know what, we have done a small focus group, or we've done a survey, and this is the number of customers we've engaged with, and this is the response we've got, or we're actually now starting to speak to potential customers, we're starting to set up trials, just giving us some real life customer engagement. Because again, one of the worst things you can do in that section is give us lots of Google stats, or come out in a report to say there's 2 million customers or people in the UK who suffer from this, and our business fits well with them. And again, that's great to know, but it doesn't give us any confidence that those 2 million customers want your product. So small focus groups, small surveys are more powerful than large Google stats that outline the market, because business, when we bring judges in, they will know the size of the market, they'll do their research, they'll know all these things. It's about what have you done as a business to demonstrate customers really want to buy into your product. Sorry, there was a question there from someone.
Yes, hi there. Like, for example, if you have a letter of intent or letter of support from a customer, is there a place that we can attach that?
Yeah, so there is an attachment section, so you can put that here. So those things are really good. You can add that in. It just gives a bit of evidence that there's some interest there. The other part that comes up in the customer focus part is we hear quite often we've got a letter of intent, or we've been speaking to Tesco or John Lewis or whoever the organisation is, we're speaking to a big company. A judging panel will say that's great, but they'll always ask 2 or 3 questions beyond that. And that's what we want you to think about when you're doing your application. They'll ask about, right, what stage is it at? So whether you've got a letter of intent or just a discussion or mention of someone, what stage is it at? Who are you speaking to? What steps do you need to take to sort of deliver on that letter of intent or that discussion? When are you likely to sort of turn that from a letter of intent into a commercial sort of contract going forward? So they will ask those things. So it's not about saying these things need to be in place. It's about, we want to know that you are thinking about, yeah, it's great to have that, but what do I need to deliver to make that become realistic? So those things are all great. Letter of intent are great, but they won't give you a automatic tick in the box to say that's great, that's you've done customer focus, you'll get a 5. It's about being able to give that enhanced confidence that you know what you need to deliver on, and here's a plan to do that. And it might be a part of Scottish Edge funding will help me do this, because it will allow me to deliver on these 1 or 2 things that I need to do to get that to a sort of confirmed progressed sale with such and such a company. So that's a crucial part of it. So that's the customer part. And then we go into a discussion around business growth. And that's where we look at, right, what is this business going to deliver over the next 3 years? That's what we fundamentally ask. We ask on your application, give us your next 3 years. What's your sales going to be? What's your profit going to be? And how many staff are you going to be employing within year 1, year 2, year 3? So that's the journey we ask you to go on. And this is where it can be challenging for some really early stage businesses, because you might not have thought beyond your first 6 months, your first 12 months. And we're asking you to think about, right, what can you achieve within those 3 years? The key part around this is be realistic. Just think about it. Think about the strategy that you've got for your business and how this can grow. What an Edge judging panel won't be impressed with is businesses that show in year 1 we're going to do £10,000 of sales. Year 2 we'll grow that to £30,000 of sales. In year 3 we're going to do £10 million of sales. And a judging panel won't go, wow, they're going to do £10 million of sales in year 3. That's not what this is about. This is about, they'll be interested in what's that continued growth journey going to look like? Because in that example, they'll just look and go, that's not realistic. because these are all experienced business people. They'll get an idea of and a sense of what that business journey will look like for you. So if you can outline it in a realistic way and say, right, here's how we're going to grow, that's the bit that, again, I've mentioned the word a few times, you just want to give confidence to a judging panel that you are on top of this. You know how this business is going to grow. You've got a good handle on the financials of this, and you're not being overly ambitious, but you're being ambitious enough to show there's real growth potential in this. So it's about just making sure that you build a plan. But when you're in that section on the application form, as I say, there's a table to ask you the questions, but below that, there's a written text box that actually asks you to say, right, how are you going to do this? So in year one, you're going to tell us that you're going to do £10,000 worth of sales. What we want to know is, right, how are you going to do that? So it aligns quite closely with your customer focus, because those two sections go well. If you're building that customer validation, then the judging panel will know you're closer to getting those business growth figures right. So think about that section carefully, really demonstrate the how part and what's important around the figures is the realistic part of it. Don't try and impress with really high figures. Be realistic, but also show the ambition that you've got for the business. And the last section that we look at finally is utilization of funding. And that's ultimately saying, right, what do you want to spend the money on from Scottish Edge? And will that funding and the things that you're going to spend it on drive your business forward? What take the business to the next stage of your business growth journey? So someone asked earlier, can you apply for £100,000? And the answer to that is yes. A lot of businesses do apply for £100,000. But what we ask you to do is really think about what do you really need for the crucial next steps of your business. What we want to see is a really clear breakdown of what you will use the money for. So if you're not giving clear specifics of we want £100,000 and the 2, 3, 4, 5 things that we will spend that on are this, and this is why, then you won't stand out and get a good score in that section. So it's a crucial to really take it forward and say, right, here's what we want to spend the money on. Scottish Edge funding can be used for basically anything, as long as it's legal. And the only things that we won't support, which is crucial, we will not support a salary for you as the existing founder of the business. So you can't ask for a salary commitment for yourself. You can ask for a salary for new members of your team. So if your team is growing, because Scottish Edge is all about a growth phase for your business. So if you're going to grow your team and bring in that expertise that we spoke about in Entrepreneurial Spirit section, then that's a really good ask, and that's a common ask in Scottish Edge to bring expertise and people in to employ and help grow that business more quickly. But you can't ask for it for your own sort of salary purposes, because it is a growth. It's not just to stabilise what's there. So that's the key parts of utilisation of funding. So that's the assessment criteria. So and hopefully that's given you a bit more in depth around when you're doing your application answers, you get a sense of what the judges are looking for. So a couple of final things to finish off, some top tips into some areas of support that you can sort of use to help you when you're doing it. So there is lots of things on our application or on our website, sorry, to help you with the application process and the video part as well. So there's our competitions page on our website, and that will give you some key fundamentals. So again, you can apply from here, but we've also got that in the main page. But our assessment criteria is in there, and the full assessment criteria is available on that page, and that's the document we hand to the judges. So you can click on it, you can sort of download it, you can see that, and that gives you a sense of all the things the judges will be looking at when they are assessing your application. And again, there's the different section, there's lots of sort of sub-points within that. And again, you don't have to tick every sub-point within each of the sections, but it's again just giving an overall sense that they are sort of scoring well or they're assessing well in that, because they're covering quite a lot of those sections. We've got a sample application form. So we've got, it's a sort of previous round where the questions are slightly different from what they are now. We always update it each round. So we've never got an application that's exactly the same each round. We do always amend it and alter it and change it from things we've learned. But just making sure that you can download that application. And what that gives you, it's a sense of the level of detail some other previous businesses have gone into. So it's an amalgamation of different answers from different past Scottish Edge winners, and it just gives you a sense of the level of depth they go into. And another part that's on there is, again, it's quite a well-used document, is a blank application form. So whilst you must apply online, you must do your full application part on the application portal. We do have a Word document that you can download, which you can work on offline. You can do all your answers, you can get other people to input to it, you can work on it sort of together, you can share it with people. But once you've done that, you need to then transfer all your answers onto the sort of copy and paste onto our online portal, as long as you do that before the deadline. So again, a key step to maybe take after today's workshop is maybe download that, and it gives you a chance to start working on the application.
Hi there, I've got another question, if I may. I've done a lot of applications and won some from Scottish Enterprise. So I just want to check one thing with you. I do want to use the money for fabrication of my first prototype. And if some of the work has started prior to any award, which will be in June, will be announced, would that cost still be eligible? Or do I need to wait till June if I'm ever going to win? And then I can spend that money on fabrication?
Yeah, so what we would probably do with that, we would probably have a chat with you sort of further into the competition to say, and what we'd say if you let us know, right, we've got a project that we need to start now in April. Can we, if we win, start to use it? And we would have a discussion with that in the team, and we would say, right, that's something we're happy to support. So it's not a no, but it's something we need to discuss, and we would do that offline with you, and we'd have a separate sort of conversation. So depending on
I'm asking you because, like, in some of the SC applications, that's definitely no. If you've done the spending beforehand, and that you can't do that. That's why I want to check with you. Yeah,
so we would need to know in advance. So we are very much sort of differently, because again, a lot of the other funding organisations out there, you have to spend the money, then you claim it back, and that doesn't work with Scottish Edge. So we do it differently. So that's why we're open and we're more flexible with these types of things. So it's not a definite yes, it's not a definite no. We will these circumstances for you.
Okay, that's lovely to hear. Okay, thank you.
And just another thing on the funding, as you mentioned, Anton, other sources of funding. Quite a lot of applications from Edge or from Edge applicants, they're also looking at other sources of funding, because we know Edge is not the be all and end all will cover all your funding needs. So a lot of them are maybe looking at Smart Awards or other sources of funding. And a good thing for the Scottish Edge Awards is you can use the loan part of the any Scottish Edge Award to match fund. So that can cover the match funding part of other courses. So that can be quite a benefit for a lot of applicants, and a lot of
no, yeah, that's brilliant.
I've got that. So that is effectively and it's a good use of funding from Edge, as we see it, because you're effectively doubling up your money, because if you use Edge funding, you're bringing in more sources of funding. It's additional validation, because Smart or another funding option is then also happy to back you. So all these things add credibility and to be part of supporting you through that.
Brilliant, thank you.
So additional to those download forms, there's also, as Ken touched on earlier, the 3-minute video pitches. There's 10 or 12 of them you can look at. They're just samples of ones that have previous winners. You can look at some case studies about Edge. There's a competition brochure, which is a 20-odd page document that covers everything you need to know about Edge. But again, there's some information, you don't have to read that, but there's some things in there that might be worth looking at. And again, if you've got any questions, we're here to help. You can contact me direct, and I'll answer any questions that you've got about the process. My details will come up at the end. We'll get the rest of the Edge team. Because we don't judge, mainly through the competition, we can help applications. My job as part of delivering the competition is to make sure the businesses are as best prepared to get their business story across. So I'm here to answer any questions, or queries or just give any advice that you think you would look for. So please use the support of the Edge team. So a couple of final tips that we have sort of picked up. We've probably touched on most of these. We'll just not go into them in detail. But as I say, the first and foremost is make it easy for the judges to understand what your business is. Key tip for anyone applying is just know the assessment criteria as well. So what we've been through in a bit of detail there, all the information is on our website. So make sure when you're doing your answers, you're kind of keeping an eye on what you're going to be judged on, because that will help you build your answers. Outline your point of difference, be realistic with your figures. Again, we've touched on that. Real customer engagement, not stats. In that, your spend, your impact. So again, I've touched on quite a lot of those things on screen, your impact. One of the things we just wanted to say is don't leave the assessors with lots of unanswered questions. And what we mean by that is a judging panel, from working with hundreds of them over various rounds, they will always ask additional questions. So if you say something quite exciting, they will want to know, right, how does that work? When will that happen? What will that cost? So just make sure that if you're saying something that you want the judges to pick up on and really grasp, that you are building on that to make sure they're really getting the sort of positive sense of it, and not get lots of questions that you've not been able to answer and it loses its impetus then. So make sure you're always thinking beyond just saying a really sort of bold statement. And the other thing to surround your application is just double check it before you submit it. The Scottish Edge application process, it's not a spelling test, it's not an exam, it's nothing like that. And spelling mistakes, grammar errors, all are normal. Those things happen. You're not going to be penalised for that. But what we mean by that, just double check it, is this is your representation of your business. That you're coming into a competition, which is now widely recognised as the biggest business competition in the UK. So you're entering into something that's got quite a high profile, and you want to represent your business well. So what we mean by double checking your form is make sure you're happy with it. We've seen lots of applications come in because the biggest reason is they've left it too late and they've done it last minute, and they've just not answered questions properly. Some questions are maybe in the wrong section because we've been copying and pasting from other forms and they've put it in the wrong place. Those things, whilst they won't knock you out of the competition, it just doesn't sort of bode well with an assessment panel when they're looking at it and they're going, when we're looking at 15 applications and this one, whilst it could be a great business, is just not sort of standing out in terms of effort or sort of care and attention for their application, then it just won't probably help when you're getting a positive assessment from that judging panel. So just make sure you give yourself enough time to do your application in a way that you're happy with. So a couple of tips on the video. Again, Ken's touched on this. 2 key things from your video are to see you as the entrepreneur and to get a sense of what the product is. So it's your opportunity to showcase your product. So whether it's a product or a service, you can build in something that showcases it. If it's a technology product or a software, you can do a demo and talk us through that. And that's often a really good way to sort of bring your product offering to life. Another thing you can do if you want, you can involve more of your team. You can get them to speak. You don't have to just be you. And some businesses have started to get their customers building in maybe a wee customer testimonial. And again, it just adds a bit more credibility to your overall story. As we said earlier, it's not about how good you are at making videos. This is a business competition. This is about how good your business is, your plan is, your product, your ambitions. So it's about that rather than, yeah, they're really good at making videos, because if you're good at making videos, but your business doesn't stand out as showing that growth potential, then you're unlikely to progress. Again, Ken touched on earlier, you be natural and engaging. This is your chance to tell your business story. A judging panel's views will be, you know your business better than anyone. So if anyone can stand up and talk about it for 3 minutes, then it should be you. So you should be able to do it. But Also, it's not a test, again, of remembering your words. You can use, if you want, whilst we kind of say it can be off-putting, if it's something that you need to do, don't be put off by using notes, but the worst thing you can do is sit and just read off a script. That's not engaging, that's not natural. So if you need to have some prompts there, fine, but the more you can be natural, the better. Quite a key one is your application form and video are combined. That's your overall submission. So whilst your video is fundamentally an overview, because there's no way you can cover everything about your business in 3 minutes, and we don't expect that. Your video is about sort of highlighting the key points across some of the key sections and building that appetite for the judges to find out more. We want to know more. And that's when your application comes in. You go into it in more depth in your application. So you don't need to repeat things. Your video should be about really the key messaging that you want. What's the key things that you want the judges to remember? And then your application form builds on that and goes into that sort of wider detail. In terms of just confidentiality and things like that, so everything that we do in Scottish Edge competition is focused around protecting the businesses and your business sensitive information, confidentiality. So all of our judges sign confidentiality agreements. So nothing is shared with anyone unless there's a confidentiality agreement in place, which aligns to Scottish Edge. In terms of your video, to make sure if you don't want that out in the public forum, what we recommend is with your video, if you're doing it on YouTube, that you use the unlisted option. So there's various security settings on your video when you sort of create that on YouTube. If you can make sure you use unlisted, because the other option there is private. And if it's private, the only way we and our judging panel can go in and watch your video is if you then share with us your sign-in details for YouTube. And we don't want that. So we don't want any passwords or emails getting passed to anyone in the Scottish Edge team or judges. So if you can use unlisted, what that means is the video link is basically you can share it with whoever you want to. So if you put it on our application portal, we'll share it with the judges only, and then no one else. It doesn't come up in any search facilities. So it's a secure method, but allows other people to access it who you want to for the purpose of it. You can also use other formats like Vimeo or other ones for your video if you want. We're happy to accept anything as long as we can get access to it, and we'll check that and we'll come back to you. But also, a wee tip there on the video, give yourself plenty of time for uploading it. Don't leave your video until 10 minutes to 2 on the 15th of February to start uploading and trying to get it all through, because it might not work. You might have technology challenges. It might take longer than that. And again, we will highly unlikely will accept it, and because we need your full application form and video before we do it. And similar to your application form, just watch your video back before you submit it. And again, it's like you're representing your business. This is your story. Ken touched on it earlier. We want to make sure we can hear it and see you and get an understanding of your business. So make sure when you watch it back, it is legible. It is, you can hear it and see it. So that's the key part of it. So a couple of final things. Every applicant that comes in to Scottish Edge will get feedback. We've had some stories in previous rounds from applicants where they've applied for other things and it's just a case of they get a no response, or they don't get a response. You get a response that you only hear from us if you win, and you don't know if you've won or not, and you're sitting. We sort of commit to giving feedback to all of our applicants. So that is a capture, or we capture the sort of judging panel discussion and their consensus around your business, and try and give you some supportive ideas as well. So we will give that to every business. So that is our way of trying to give you a benefit of going through the application process and giving something back to that you can take forward, whether it's into the next stage of the competition, hopefully, or if you're not successful, if you come back, or if you're going to other funders, that you can use that to help enhance your proposition going forward. And Edge is about a bit of a learning journey as well. It's not always a case of you come in first time and you win £100,000 and you go, great, that was an easy process. That's kind of unlikely or unheard of. So So what happens with Scottish Edge is a lot of our applicants actually win on a second, third or fourth application attempt. So about 50% of our winners on the Scottish Edge category have applied in a previous round and maybe got to a semi-final, or maybe not put the best application in, but come back and learned. So, and they come back into the competition and then they win. But the flip side of that is we've also had almost 50% of our winners have been first-time applicants, come in, done a brilliant application, come in, a great video, went all the way through and walked away with a good sum of money and a wider support aspect of it as well. So don't think if you're a first-time applicant that you're going to not win because you're a first-time applicant. That's not the case. It's about coming in and sort of just making sure you put the best case across. And hopefully with our process, which is robust, the best businesses will sort of stand out and stand out at the end of it. A couple of comments here just around the wider aspect of support and the benefits of going through the process as well. So that's your challenge. At Scottish Edge, we have got a pot of money. We've got a prize pot of about £1.5 million that we want to give out. We at the Scottish Edge team don't benefit from it. There's no benefit to us if we don't give it out. So we want to find good businesses. We want to find Scottish businesses that have got growth potential, that have got ambitions to make a difference and employ people and deliver all that impact. So if you've got one of those businesses, then please take the time and do a good application and give yourself the best opportunity to get a share of that 1.5 million that we want to give out. So it's not a process that's designed to catch you out. It's not a process that's designed to say, oh, we'll only give out a smaller prize pot because that's good for us. That doesn't work that way. It's sort of all our partner organisations and all of the funding that comes back in from previous Edge winners is designed to go back out to make a real difference to early stage businesses. So please be positive about it. Please, you will have a good chance if you do a good application of progressing and hopefully walking away with some money that can really transform your business and take it forward to sort of go on and do really good things. So come the 9th of June, when we have our awards dinner, we want you to be standing on our stage with a Scottish Edge trophy and have been announced as winning a good sum of money to help take your business forward. So as I say, we've had a number of questions come through as we go through, but if there's any questions that anyone's got, please ask. My details are on the screen. If there's anything you want to get in touch with afterwards, please do that. I can also check in with Jack, who's been managing the chat, to see if there's any questions that's come through that we want to cover on there. But just to finish off before we do questions, just to say good luck. We want to see you coming in. We want to see you put a good application in. We want to help you and support you and work with you, hopefully going forward as a Scottish Edge winner in the future. So thanks again for joining us. Happy to take some questions and just good luck. And any questions, just whether today or further down the line when you're doing your application, please just get in touch. So that's a key part. And I'll open it up to questions, or I can go to Jack if anyone wants to ask anything.
There's one question in the chat, Stephen, about how the funding's allocated in loan terms. Do you want me to pick that up?
Yeah, if you could, Ken, if you want to.
Yeah, so Scottish Edge funding, I'll just talk about the main category here. So any funding award is provided in 2 equal tranches. So just to keep the math simple, if you received £100,000 award, then you would receive that funding in one initial tranche of £50,000, which would be made up of 70% loan and 30% grant. So in the event of a £100,000 award, you'd have an Edge loan of £35,000 and a grant of £15,000. And then at the point in time when you request to draw down the second half of the funding, you'd receive another Scottish Edge loan for £35,000 and the balance of the grant of another £15,000. The loan terms, loans are typically over a 5-year term. So 5 years is the maximum loan term. And that's normally the term that we would recommend everybody taking, because it keeps the monthly repayments at the lowest level. There's a flat rate of interest which applies, which is 5%. That works out at approximately 7.9% APR. In terms of the loan repayments, they are made by direct debit on the 28th day of the month, and you would start repaying on the loan at the end of the month following you receiving the funding. If you elected to repay the loan within 24 months, should you raise other funding or something like that, and that's something you wanted to do, then the loans would be interest-free. Beyond the 24 months, you can repay early at any point in time. There's no early repayment redemption fees or charges for that at all. And there are no personal guarantees on the loan. But I think Jack's put the link into the chat to the relevant section of the competition brochure that'll give you more details around that. I suppose just one thing to think about when you're submitting your application. Stephen mentioned before that whilst you can apply for £100,000, don't see that as a target as to how I can spend £100,000. More think of it in terms of how much do I really need to enable me to move my business to the next sort of stage. And then sort of in thinking about that, also think about, you're going to have a loan to service on that. So you need to be confident that you're going to be able to do that.
Okay, I think we've got a question there from Claudia. Claudia, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. Also on the type of funding that is awarded. So for a pre-revenue business or pre-trading business, it's really the chicken and egg situation. So if they need to draw in the cash to undertake a marketing campaign, then if that comes as a loan, then they can't afford to pay the loan until they have actual customers. so it's just understanding how a pre-trading company can benefit from an EDGE award, which has that loan part as well. And if you can comment on how the money is actually spent. There was a question earlier about developing a prototype for a product and how that is linked to the EDGE award.
Ken might jump in as well in part of that. So, but in terms of how you get the balance right between the award and paying back the loan part of it. So there is in circumstances, and all of our winners meet with our Ken and our relationship management team afterwards to sort of work out a sort of repayment structure. There is some instances where we can give a reduced repayment period at some point, depending on your journey. So you wouldn't pay a smaller amount until you start to build up some more, whether it's revenue or sort of build up a sort of plan. So you might have a smaller, 6 months or so to sort of help you benefit from that award going in. So that's the whole purpose of the award. It's to help you grow your business to get to a stage where you can then start to pay it back. So we are sort of flexible around those things. We can work with you, but it's about just being able to make sure it's benefiting you going forward. So there is some things we can work on sort of in an individual case basis that helps in those circumstances, because that is often the case that businesses are pre-trading and it is a challenge to say, right, how can you pay this back? So we will work with you and look at various different scenarios to help you to sort of do that. And you had another, was that okay, or did you had another question around?
Yes, that explains. So there is flexibility in the way the money is actually awarded. And how is the money awarded and linked with an actual project, with an expenditure on a project?
Yeah, so what, again with that, just in terms of the spend, so the funding is when you are announced as a winner. Again, you have your meeting and then what we sit down with you and agree, right, here's the 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 things, whatever it is that you're going to spend the money on. Here's the things that you said you need this money for. So it might just be one key thing. And when you agree to that, we then release half the money to you. So we'll give you half the money up front without you having to have spent any of it. So you can then start to sort of build your prototype or do anything. And then once you've got to a stage where you can evidence that you've spent that, and by giving us some invoices, you might say, if you're working with a company to develop a prototype and it costs you X amount of pounds, you might say, right, we'll pay half of that to them when we get our Edge Award. We've got an invoice for that, and here's the next part of it is going to cost us this as well, and we'll release that for you as well further down the line. So that can get released anytime within the next 12 months. So you can get that within 1 month or 9 months down the line, whatever works for how you need that spend element to go. So again, all these things are kind of individual for each business, and we have got that flexibility to work with each businesses. Can you get anything on that, or?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. Anything else, or Jack, did you have anything?
Yeah, it seems just one came through there. I'm not sure, you're probably best. So it's basically saying, I've quite a specific question about finances. I've been trading since 2019, only became an LLC in August 2021. Wondering what numbers I should include. Obviously, books are different from those time ranges. Probably before then, they don't accurately represent the position of the business. So
what we would say with that, Jack, is see from when the most recent registration was, we would class that. So when they turned into an LLC, that's when they would start on the actual figures part of the application. So we'd give their current year and then the next 3 years projected. But we've got that written text box below it that it would be good just to give a bit of background to say we've actually been doing this for the last 2, 3 or 4 years. We've just registered as a sort of limited company or limited partnership, whatever it is they've set up as, and then that's where the specific figures are. But the box below can give us some sort of background information to the previous history. Say when we started off in 2018 or whenever it was, here's how we've grown this, and this is the steps we've now taken to sort of take the next steps forward in the journey. So that box underneath the trading figures is where you would put a bit of context around the actual journey that you're going on. Because if they have been going for 3 or 4 years and they've been making sales each year, that's the types of things that stand out to the judges, because it shows that year-on-year progress. Whilst we're not asking the specific figures for each year, it gives, again, that word confidence to the judges that they have been going for a few years now and they've been growing year-on-year.
Great, thank you. Another one, I was actually just in the process of answering. It was just wondering why some categories are age limited when we know the spark can happen at any time. Essentially, I'm saying it's the only young age that's age limited, and that was just through recognition of how challenging it can be for young entrepreneurs in terms of overcoming stigma and access to finances and building credibility, etc. So that's why that round was introduced with an age limit on it.
Yeah, so Jack, you've probably covered it. Age, sort of young age was sort of introduced very early stage in the competition, and it was seen as just to giving younger people or younger entrepreneurs a chance to take that first step. And that's what the age funding is about, helping them take that first step. Similar to that, without the age restrictions, we've got Wildcard Edge, which is a kind of similar category because it's helping those early stage businesses that are pre-trading. And then obviously sort of Scottish Edge, but that's open to any age bracket. And we've had winners in Scottish Edge from the age of 19 right through to people in their 70s. So there's no age barrier at all in the Scottish Edge part of it at all. Any other questions? Or
yeah, so I think, sorry, I'm just looking back there. I think there's one came earlier on. It was just about the social enterprise edge category in terms of the £200,000 turnover. Is that eligible for them as well in that section?
So again, this social enterprise categories, so we tend to have smaller numbers in that in terms of who the social enterprises are competing against each other, but the assessment criteria is still the same. But the bit that's always stood out in the social enterprise edge categories, every one of them will have a really strong social purpose. That's a tick in the box for the majority of them. It's the ones that stand out in that category are the ones that have got those really solid business foundations and have got the plans to grow. Because again, just from discussions with judging panels, their view is that ones who deliver the best impact or the best social good are the ones that get their business foundations right and start to grow as a business, because by growing as a business, that allows you to do more social good. So yeah, so the £200,000 is an aspirational target for social enterprises. It's not a definite you must be doing 200,000, but it's an aspirational. We want the businesses to be aiming high in terms of their growth projections.
Can I just add to that, Stephen? I think if you're applying to the social enterprise category, I think what can really help your case on your application is if you can demonstrate how your organization is sustainable over time. Because if your income stream is solely reliant upon grant funding, and there's nothing wrong with that, but give the panel a sense of confidence around how secure is that funding stream going forward. So, if you're based on having to apply for, for annual funding, then obviously that's not as sustainable as where you've got an income stream that, can be guaranteed or pretty strongly guaranteed over the course of the next sort of 2 or 3 years. So if you can present a case that shows actually there's a sustainable element to the organization continuing, that's going to give you a much stronger case.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. So I'm conscious of people's time. We're kind of just running slightly over what we had originally set out for the workshop. If there's any other key questions, then please get in touch. Please use the Scottish Edge team. We are here to help. Then I'm conscious there's just another question coming there, which we'll touch on. But if anyone has to go, please, you're free to go. Happy for you to sort of dial off now, and we can keep in touch. You can email me or sort of just use our website to get in touch. And just good luck as we go through. Jack, was there another question just coming there from?
Oh, sorry, I thought you'd saw it. Yeah, so just say, if we were to start trading after we have applied during the competition, would we have to update you on that?
Yeah, we would sort of monitor that as we go through. The trading, pre-trading part of it's not, it's probably for the wildcard category. And what we base it on is if you're pre-trading at the application closing date. So if you're pre-trading when that application window closes on 15th of February, it's probably really only applicable to wildcard, because that's where the pre-trading sort of eligibility part is. Then that's fine. We're happy with it. We'll sort of work with you through it. If you start trading, then that's probably seen as a positive, as long as you were pre-trading to start, then because it's showing your business is progressing. For the other categories, whether you're pre-trading or trading, it doesn't matter in terms of eligibility, but we'll continue to get updates from you as we go through, and we get update forms for the businesses that make to the semi-final, so we can get an update anyway at that stage. So for Wildcard Edge, as long as you're pre-trading at the time of the application window closing, then you're fine to apply, even if you start trading before the final or before the awards.
Yeah, I think that was everything from us.
So thanks everyone for joining. Thank you for giving up a big chunk of your morning, a big part of your morning. Hope that was useful and beneficial, and you got some sort of tips in there. And we just look forward to seeing applications coming in now, and wish you all the best in Scottish Edge Round 19. And we hope we see you all on the 9th of June at an award ceremony, picking up an award. Good luck, everyone.